I'm sure many of us Five Nights at Freddy's fans have wondered at one point what would happen if FNAF World got another update. What kind of changes would be made? Where would the story take us from here? And of course, what new characters and abilities could be added to the game? Well, that's why I'm here today making this video, to do the brainstorming for you. I think you guys will have fun with this one. Now, onto the list. The very first character I'm going to talk about is a fairly popular non-canon individual among the FNAF misfits. Spring Foxy / Golden Foxy, whatever you want to call him. His moveset would be Fast Mimic, Spring Locks, and Water Hose 2. Fast Mimic is a new ability that would spawn a better, more effective version of the Mimic Ball. As the ability's name suggests, it would mimic your attacks much faster. That probably sounds really cool on its own, but it gets even better. You know how the normal Mimic Ball disappointingly only mimics an ability once? Well, that wouldn't be the case with Fast Mimic. Yeah, you would finally be able to pull off that quadruple string of Cosmic Song or Jacko Bomb that you've always wanted. If it wasn't obvious already, Spring Foxy is a very utility-based character. Safe to say, he would be one of the higher-end flexible characters, especially among the late-game batch. Fun fact, Spring Foxy having the Water Hose 2 ability is based on his character in my one-day-to-be FNAF alternate universe Puppet Shade, since in that universe, his favorite thing are water sports. As for unlocking him, I'd say a fair enough challenge would be just to beat the game in hard mode. He would be used commonly, that's for sure. Yeah, I know, I kinda shat all over status ailments in my power scaling video, but it's pretty amazing sometimes how quickly opinions can change. Debuff abilities have grown on me, and if I made that list all over again, which I'm not ever going to do, some placements would be very different. Next, I want to talk about a character that would capitalize on a debuff-focused strategy. I'm not sure why Nightmare Mangle wasn't added to the game with Update 2, because honestly, she should have been. She would be far more worth speedrunning Chica's Magic Rainbow over than Chipper. Her moveset would have Gloom Song 2, Sludge 2, and Poppers 2. We have Rainy Day 2 in the game, so I don't know why they didn't just make a second version of the other two status debuffs. They're the same case as Rainy Day 2, in that they apply their respective debuffs while also dealing damage, and Poppers 2 would just be bigger poppers, which pack an extreme punch and damage. They detonate much faster than normal poppers, and there wouldn't need to be nearly as many of them on the ground to make them unstable. In fact, you'd likely only have to toss them out once, and so long as there's 4 or 5 of them on the ground, they might only take a few seconds to go off. Even if you only toss 3, which is the minimal number of how many poppers can be thrown at a time, you're looking at maybe 6 or 7 seconds at the very longest, and using Fast Mimic with this attack would make it all the more lethal. To unlock her, you would have to get all the bites from LBit's shop. Nightmare Mangle would be a popular choice for sure. Since Funtime Foxy is in the game, I thought it would only make sense to mention the sister location animatronics. I decided to take a simpler approach with Funtime Freddy. Instead of coming up with some complicated moveset which fits one certain strategy, I went ahead and just made this guy a better version of OG Freddy. His attacks would be Birthday, Bonbon, and Pizza Wheel 3. Pizza Wheel 3 is pretty self-explanatory, and Bonbon would basically be Funtime Freddy's mic toss move. Honestly, I just thought it would be funny if he had an attack where he just yeets Bonbon at the enemies to deal damage. Funtime Freddy would be unlocked by simply collecting all the chips. Maybe a little underscaled compared to some of the other characters on the list, but overall, I still think he'd make for a solid party member. I took some heavy inspiration from Nightmare Freddy coming up with Circus Baby's moveset. She would focus on heavy damage while also having a bit of a support role. Her moveset would consist of Biddy Barrage, Neon Wall 2, and Scooper. Biddy Barrage is just like Freddles, except with Biddy Babs. Scooper would behave similar to Slasher, having a chance to hit and take off a massive chunk of HP. Although, the difference between them is that Scooper does less damage, but has a higher probability of landing. I'd estimate a 25% chance to hit and deal anywhere between 30,000 and 50,000 damage. Obviously, there'd have to be some far tougher enemies added to the game in order to give a good reason for using an attack like this. Circus Baby would be unlocked by defeating the Chica's Magic Rainbow boss in less than 2 minutes. Although, you would most definitely need Spring Foxy with that fast mimic. Otherwise, the slasher RNG is going to be a pain in the ass trying to beat that challenge. Anyways, what I really like about a moveset like this for Baby is that her combination of abilities is quite flexible in what playstyle you use her for. It's the very thing that made Nightmare Freddy such a strong character, and given how many people like Circus Baby, it's only fitting that she'd have something to offer for anyone wanting to make use of her on their team. Bora is without question one of the strongest characters on this list, and you'll see why once I explain her abilities. Like Circus Baby, Bora's moveset offers high damage, but her support role is way larger than Baby's. Her moveset would be Jump Scare, Music Box, and Rena Rampage. Rena Rampage is another Freddles-like attack, although it doesn't do quite as much damage as Biddy Barrage, and that's for the sake of balancing. Then there's Music Box. If there was a contest of which abilities in FNAF World are the most overpowered, Music Box would be an extreme level contender for the top if it existed. Essentially, what it does is that it allows you full control over your party for a limited amount of time. If you use Music Box, a giant gift box resembling the one belonging to Marionette would spawn next to your team, and overlaying it would be a timer counting down from 12 seconds. During those 12 seconds, you can basically do whatever the heck you want. You can select any character you want at any time, and use any ability you want at any time. You could just go ham with a single character if you wanted to. And when the Music Box is active, while you have a character selected with their moveset pulled up, enemies cannot attack you or do anything. You're completely immune in that moment. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds awfully overpowered. Surely there's a catch, right? Well, yeah, obviously there's a catch. In fact, there's 3 catches. First, the immunity attribute does not work with the tough bosses. Chipper's Revenge, Security, Chica's Magic Rainbow, Scott, and whatever 5th crazy final boss might come from an update like this would still be able to attack and kill your characters at any time. Second, before selecting a character, you must be sure it's the character you want to use. Once you have their moveset pulled up, there's no back button or option to cancel. You'll actually have to think about what to do next and be smart about how you use these 12 seconds. Lastly, the biggest balancer of them all is that Music Box can only be used once per fight. You only get one shot with it, and once that timer hits 0, you won't get back those 12 seconds until the next enemy encounter. Point being, Music Box is a very rewarding ability if you use it well, but can be ultra punishing if you aren't smart about it. It's powerful, but it's a very delicate and sensitive use of your time fighting. Bora would be unlocked by achieving the clock ending on hard mode. Most definitely would be a very common staple character. Let's talk about Enard. Not gonna lie, this guy was kind of a weird one. For Enard, I wanted to try and come up with a moveset for him that would be useful enough to have mid to late game appeal, but also balanced enough to where he wouldn't just be an OP staple character like Bora, Spring Foxy, and some other character I'll talk about in a bit. I kinda took inspiration from Purple Guy's moveset, giving Enard a buff ability and 2 random chance attacks. His moveset would be Scooper, Speed Song, and a new move called Ultra Stun. Basically, it has a chance to turn all enemies to stone, although it would be kinda like Escape Key in that the probability of the attack landing is considerably low. We'd be looking at about a 20% chance. Not to mention, this attack would only really be useful against normal enemies. Using it against bosses would be kinda pointless, since it would just be a worse version of Haunting at that point, which has a much higher chance of working. Despite the weaknesses in that one ability, that's obviously not enough to drag him down a whole lot on the power scale. He would still be a very helpful character to have, and many people, especially those who prefer a support-based playstyle, would see the value in Enard's moveset. To unlock Enard, you would have to find the secret 4th subtunnel ending on hard mode. I'm sure you're starting to notice a trend with these unlock challenges. Oh boy, this is probably the one I'm going to talk about the longest. You can't tell me that it's not at least a little disappointing that LBit isn't a recruitable character. Then again, maybe that's a good thing, since if she had the moveset I came up with for her, she would be hands down the most overpowered support character in the entire game. Her moveset consists of Bite Dupe, Gift Boxes, and Neon Wall 2. Now, Bite Dupe is the elephant in the room here. It does exactly what the name suggests. Using this ability would duplicate your bites so that there's 2 of each active. Now, I'll just throw this balancer out there right off the bat. The ability will only duplicate your bites once. It's not like Music Box to where you can only use it once in a fight. It's always available to use no matter what. It's just that it wouldn't create a duplicate of a duplicate, so you can't have any more than 8 active bites at a time. Still, not that it really matters, since there's so much versatility with what you can do with stacked bites. You could have more UFOs for a higher and faster damage output, stack shield buffs for defense boosts that would make your team a whole new level of unstoppable. With Reapers, making a second one automatically makes the probability of their insta-kill 50% higher. And probably coolest of all, you would get to use bombs more than once. This one ability combined with the haha funny immortality cubes and a free 5 seconds of invincibility which is always available to use, essentially creates a revolutionary character that would change the game forever. LBit would greatly expand on what's possible in this game, and she would fit literally any playstyle. Now slow down there, CD, I hear you saying. What's the catch? Well, the catch is that LBit would be extremely difficult and time-consuming to unlock. The time-consuming part would come first. You would have to reach an amount of 25,000 FAS tokens legitimately. On hard mode, of course. Once your currency reaches that threshold, then comes the difficult part. Upon earning 25,000, you unlock the LBit boss fight. To get to it, you would need to find the LBit that sells boss drains in Deep Metal Mine. Upon reaching her, you do the same thing you would do with Fredbear to get the clock's ending. Just wait there for a bit. Don't go back, don't buy anything, just wait. After waiting long enough, the shop interface would disappear, and LBit would start monologuing like Scott does before his boss fight. I imagine her dialogue would kinda reveal her as a very greedy person, and she ends up battling with you because she wants all your fast tokens for herself. It would basically be a harder version of Chipper's Revenge. She'd one-shot and have a bunch of abilities at her disposal, but the thing which would make the fight that much harder would be that LBit could summon bites of her own. So yeah, she could one-shot kill a party member and then her Reaper lands a scythe on another one. And if she summons a blocker, you would have to be smart about what buff and debuff abilities you use. See, the problem with pretty much all the boss fights currently in this game is that you're able to win just by using the same moves over and over. If you ask me, it would be a nice change of pace to introduce an actually difficult boss like LBit, because it would constantly force you to be smart, change up your strategy, and think of ways to work around the offensive or defensive attributes that she'd gain from whatever bites she has active. If you win the boss fight, what follows is a cutscene in which LBit surrenders and begs for mercy, and things take a wholesome turn when Freddy, from the kindness of his heart, offers LBit a big bag of fast coins. Realizing that she's been given grace, she expresses her gratitude by agreeing to join your party. Then you unlock LBit. If you lose, no worries, you're still able to try again, as you don't actually lose your 25,000 FAS tokens from a game over. However, there would be a harsh punishment in store for anyone who attempts to unlock LBit with FAS coins that weren't earned legitimately. If the player just gives themselves FAS coins by modding the game, this is what happens. They're still able to fight LBit. However, should they win the fight, instead of unlocking LBit, they get an extremely dark and unsettling ending to the game. A different cutscene plays, in which LBit sort of breaks the fourth wall and calls out the player for not properly earning their FAS coins, kinda like an anti-piracy screen. LBit would then say that she doesn't side with cheaters before the screen goes black. After a few seconds, the silhouette of LBit's lifeless body laying on the ground appears. There's nothing overly graphic about it, it's just her laying on the ground. But then a message appears above her body saying, "Look what you made me do," implying that she ended herself. After that, the game crashes, and when the player re-enters their save, their currency will be at 0. There would be absolutely no reward or trophy from getting this ending. All you would get from it is the shame and guilt over LBit taking her own life because you decided to be a scumbag. Ain't nobody want an emotional reaction like that from a game like this, so you best do the damn work and earn your fast coins. Well, not that it matters since none of this is real and likely never will be. Just don't cheat, okay? Since I talked about LBit, I'll bring up the other non-recruitable weirdos. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with Meno, since his character revolves around armor and defense. His moveset is straightforward, consisting of 3 abilities which are already in the game: Armor Song, Neon Wall 2, and Rainy Day 2. To unlock him, you would need to buy all 3 Endo upgrades from him on hard mode. Pretty simple and would definitely be a handy addition to almost any late game party.